If you have type 2 diabetes, you're certainly not alone. Diabetes is raging out of control all around the world. Nearly 400 million people already have it, and by the end of this decade, just 7 short years away, it's predicted to affect 1 in 3 people. Now, most doctors say there's no cure for type 2, which means people who have it will have to take drugs to control their blood sugar for the rest of their lives. But here's a surprise. This isn't true. You see, the medical and drug industries don't want this fact well known because they rake in hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide from diabetes treatments every year. It's in their best interest not to popularize the fact that type 2 diabetes can be reversed simply and inexpensively. And the truth is, scores of people have already kicked type 2 diabetes out of their lives, and you can too. Here's why. It helps to think of insulin as a guard dog. Certain foods and beverages raise your blood sugar higher than is healthy for you. When this happens, an alarm goes off in your body signaling danger. So insulin comes charging out of its doghouse down in your pancreas to chase this excess blood glucose into your muscle cells where it can be burned off as energy. But if your cells are already filled with glucose, they can't take in anymore. So if there's nowhere for all that extra glucose to go, the alarm bell keeps ringing. This alarm calls for even more insulin, and if you take a diabetes medication, this puts still more insulin in your bloodstream because that's what these drugs do. But what happens when your muscle cells are already filled with glucose and there's no place for it to go? That's when insulin, whose job it is to get all the blood sugar out of your bloodstream no matter what, performs a clever trick. As insulin charges through your bloodstream, the nails of these dogs dig deep into the delicate lining of your arteries, scratching and gouging them. Think of a pack of guard dogs running over a silk sheet. This damage triggers your body's inflammation response, the same thing that happens after you accidentally scratch or cut your arm. You've seen this a dozen times. First, your scratch gets red and swollen. Then, as your immune system tries to heal the scratch, it creates a scab over it. Well, in your arteries, these scabs are called plaques, and when one of them bursts, it can form a blood clot that blocks the flow of blood to your heart or brain. This is what causes a heart attack or stroke. Too much insulin in your arteries causes serious damage, which is why people with diabetes are 400% more likely to suffer a sudden heart attack or fatal stroke than non-diabetics. You see, people rarely die from diabetes or high blood sugar. Instead, they die from the complications of diabetes, and heart attack and stroke are by far the worst of these. In fact, they're responsible for 75% of all deaths in people with diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is mostly caused by one thing: overconsuming the foods and beverages that trigger your body's insulin alarm and calls out the dogs. In fact, the old food pyramid recommended that we consume 6 to 11 servings of these insulin-triggering foods every day. Thank goodness we know better today, or at least some of us do. The key to reversing type 2 diabetes is simply to stop consuming these insulin-triggering foods and beverages. This will turn off your body's insulin alarm, and your guard dogs will retreat back to the doghouse in your pancreas, and they'll relax. By avoiding these insulin-triggering foods and beverages and choosing the ones that keep insulin levels low, insulin resistance goes away. Your metabolism will re-regulate itself. Your health will start to improve, and you won't have diabetes anymore. A few years ago, I had the dream of wiping out type 2 diabetes all around the world, or at least rolling it back to the days when it was a rare condition that only affected a tiny percentage of people. I really believe this can happen if we can get 1 million people to succeed in reversing their diabetes. My plan is simple. With the help of good people like you, we can spread the news that type 2 is not incurable. And when people with diabetes read how easy it is, they'll kick type 2 diabetes out of their lives just like the diabetes heroes have. Once their family members and friends with type 2 diabetes see this dramatic transformation in their health, and when they see how simple it can be, they'll do it too. And when enough people start reversing their diabetes, it will trigger a domino effect that will travel around the world. I call my plan 1 million ex-diabetics because that's the critical number of people we need to reach to trigger a spontaneous chain reaction of healing around the world.